Hey guys, Spudknocker here, as always, and today we're going to take an in-depth look at buddy lasing, one of the more difficult things you can do in DCS World multiplayer. In my F16 review, I talked about how dropping and guiding LGBs really shows off DCS World's strengths as a simulator, and buddy lasing just takes this to a whole new level and shows off the best of what DCS World's multiplayer has to offer. So today we're going to take a look at 3 of the most common tactics you can use to successfully buddy laze in DCS multiplayer, and which tactics you should employ in a given situation. So let's go ahead and get on into it, guys. Alrighty guys, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at our very first method we're going to go over in this video on buddy lasing. And I like to call it the AFAC orbit method. And that's simply because it's the type of buddy lasing that most people think of and most people have tried or practiced in DCS World multiplayer, where you have kind of a FAC-A, or forward air controller airborne, orbiting around the target and then lasing the target and then having a jet come in, drop a bomb, and break away as that FAC-A is orbiting the target. And so it's a very good method, and it's very good for if you're in a close air support type of situation in which you got a lot of targets that you need to hit pretty quickly with high amount of precision in a more or less non-contested airspace area, because that forward air controller airborne can be quite vulnerable kind of in a lazy orbit around the target area. But it's a great way to get a lot of bombs on the target very quickly, because the forward air controller airborne is going to have great situational awareness as to what is actually happening on the ground, what targets need to be hit quickly, and it goes a lot faster and can go a lot faster with a very practiced squadron than having each aircraft kind of individually pick out their own targets and do their own self-guided drops on those targets, because the forward air controller airborne can just go boop 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 boop, bouncing between targets and calling in jets to hit those targets. And so basically what you're going to see here in this demonstration is both myself and Kortana, we're going to be coming in from the northwest out here, and we're going to start entering an orbit around Greater Tomb Island, looking for targets through our targeting pod around here. And as we're in that orbit, because we're in just a nice lazy orbit around the island, we're able to shoot our laser in onto targets anywhere on that island as we fly through the orbit. Now, if you're in an FA-18, you want to be in a left-hand orbit, and if you're in an F-14, you want to be in a right-hand orbit, and the same goes for if you're in an F-16, you want to be in a right-hand orbit. And that way you are less likely to mask your pod as you're flying through that orbit, and you'll be able to call out targets, find targets, designate targets much easier and much more quickly. And so in our demonstration here, our shooting aircraft is going to be coming in here from the northeast, and it's going to be coming in, rolling in, and then coming off the target back out here to the southeast. And so as a result, wherever we are in the orbit around Greater Tomb Island, we're able to designate and lays that bomb that they're going to drop into a target. And it's just that simple. It's probably the easiest method, but does require a bit of practice, because you kind of want to try and get, if you're the FAC-A flying around in this orbit, you kind of want to get as close to a pylon turn as you possibly can. And so you kind of want to look for a pivotal altitude in the F-14 if you're at 15,000 feet, which is a pretty good flight level to be at. When you're flying in this FAC-A orbit, you kind of want to have a distance separated out from the target between 5.5 and 6.5 miles. You want to make sure that you're not getting further than about 12 miles, as that's when your laser's range is going to start degrading, and you're not going to actually be able to guide bombs onto that target. So just be cognizant of that, and definitely use your autopilot modes, especially in the F-14. You know, just the automatic flight control system turned on, as well as your altitude hold turned on, and that will really help you in terms of flying a nice easy orbit and being able to find targets and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump into DCS and take a look at it. Alrighty, I'm just approaching the island at the moment, and then I'll get into a nice orbit around the island. You continue towards the island and then kind of orbit to the northeast a little bit until I'm ready for you to start engaging those targets.
Roger, I'll orbit to the northeast. I have the island in sight, and my bombs are
as we fly through the 3 different demonstrations of the 3 different tactics for buddy lasing in DCS world, I'm going to be flying once first as the designator, and then second as the shooter aircraft, so you guys can get a look at both sides. Now keep in mind that the biggest hindrance to proper buddy lasing in DCS world and getting it to work is bad coordination of the laser code between the 2 aircraft. Keep in mind here that most DCS world aircraft have their laser code for their bombs set on the ground and are therefore inflexible once you're in the air. You have to make sure the designator is coordinated with the laser code of the bombs that are going to be dropped. You can always check what laser code your bombs are on by checking your knee board.
Roger.
Now this of course doesn't apply to aircraft such as the AV-8B Harrier and the FA-18, who do have the ability to change the laser code on their bombs on the fly in the air.
Is it precisely at the north end of the runway, or is it off either to the east or to the west?
Just slightly off to the west, right next to the turnaround taxiway.
Perfect. I'll be searching.
Roger. So I'm just trying to enter a very nice and gentle, as close to a pylon turn as I possibly can around Greater Tomb Island here. This is why it's very important to always be in permissive airspace. Alright, I'm set up in a nice orbit and ready for you whenever you're ready. It's simply because there is a lot going on for the airborne forward air controller, and you don't want to have SAMs coming up at you while you're trying to coordinate aircraft. It can definitely lead to a very bad day. So Kortana is approaching the island from the northeast. She is flying an FA-18 Hornet, and it really doesn't matter what kind of aircraft you're using to buddy laze. You can use an F-14 and an F-5, an F-18 and an AV-8, an F-16 and an F-18. It doesn't matter. So I'm just trying to reestablish that pylon turn. I got a little bit far away from the island, and so I'm just increasing the bank angle and pulling back the throttle a bit just to get a bit better of a turn rate coming around the island. We want to try and ideally stay between 5.5 and 6.5 miles away from our target, and that'll keep us in that nice pylon turn. So we've got our target picked out here, and I'm just popping in between Q designate mode and point track mode just to make sure I'm sweetening up my picture on that T-72 and making sure that Kortana's bomb will hit direct center on that tank. It's also incredibly important to make sure...
20 miles out, and I have the runway in.
Roger. Let me know when you're paveway, and I'll give it the sparkle. That you are describing the area in which the bomb needs to be dropped very, very well and very, very detailed. When you're practicing this to start, definitely do it near a very prominent landmark, such as the runway on Greater Tomb Island like we're using here. That will really allow you guys to coordinate between yourselves much, much better and allow for a better drop, because if the bomb is dropped too far away, it won't be able to acquire the laser and guide onto the target. So we're just coming around the island here. It doesn't matter at what angle we're lasing the target from for this type of a drop, because the laser is going to fan out like a big cone, and the laser itself is actually splashing all over the target and probably onto the ground around the target itself, and the bomb will be looking for that laser signature and be guiding to the exact center of that laser signature. So having as much of that target bathed in laser energy as possible is what you want here in this situation. So Kortana's inbound. She's getting pretty darn close. She's going to make a CCIP drop on the end of the runway.
Target in sight.
Target's in sight still. We're just making sure that we have that crew coordination going back and forth between the designator and the shooter aircraft.
Kortana, paveway.
Alright, sparkling. So she's dropped her bomb, and I am now lasing the target. And splash. Good shot. Alrighty, we did it. So hopefully that illustrates it for you guys, and now why don't we go ahead and move on to showing this exact same thing from the shooter's vantage point. Alright, is the target at the north end of the runway?
Affirmative.
So Kortana is doing the exact same thing that I was just doing. Alright, I've got the island in sight. However, the only difference is she's flying an FA-18 Hornet in a nice orbit around the island itself, and I'm just taking her place, and I'll be doing a CCIP drop on the area that she tells me to drop on, so that way my bomb can capture her laser and go right on into that target. Okay, I've got you on link 16, so I can deconflict with you that way. Is the target directly on the runway, or is it east or west of the runway?
It should be just a tiny bit east of the runway.
Roger. Be dropping just slightly east of the runway. Alright, I'll be running in pretty close to you here, so just keep an eye out. I'll try and avoid you as best I can.
Roger, I appreciate.
Roger. Okay, I am now 10 miles out. So this is another thing to keep in mind when using this AFAC orbit technique is you need to make sure that you are deconflicting your run-ins and run-offs of the target from the actual FAC himself or herself, because you could potentially get into a mid-air collision with a lot of jets in the airspace all making run-ins with another aircraft 8 miles out, usually at a lower altitude, orbiting around below, designating targets. Alright, Spud's rolling in. Bit of an early roll-in, but we'll let it slide for this time. Now, a nice thing that we can compensate with that is the CCIP/CCRP mode in the F-16 by just simply holding down the pickle button a little bit longer. Pave way east of the runway. And weapons away.
Good separation. Kortana, sparkle.
She is designating the target with her laser, and we can look over our shoulder and see that weapon falling, and looks like we got a shack.
Shack.
Nice. And Kortana confirms it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next method of buddy lasing, and that is the trail formation buddy lasing. Alrighty guys, so we're going to go ahead and talk about buddy lasing from a trail formation now. Now there's three top use cases as to why you'd want to buddy laze from a trail formation. The first use case is if you have a pre-planned and known location target that you can place a waypoint over, and not every aircraft within your flight is capable of self-designation. And so this was used quite often during the 1991 Gulf War when targeting pods were still extremely expensive and super rare within the coalition air forces, and not every aircraft had a FLIR turret built into it like an A6E with a tram system in it. And so as a result, buddy lasing was necessitated because not every aircraft had that means of self-designation, as I just explained. And so the next use case would be if you're trying to hit, say, a tall building, like this guy sticking up here, and you want to put that bomb through the very front of the building for whatever reason, and having a self-guided bomb go into that from a self-guiding airplane, the laser will end up coming kind of from a here position, which is good because we want to hit the front. Now it's going to start coming here, it's going to start coming here, and now it's finally going to start lasing the back of the target as our self-designating aircraft flies over that target and releases his bomb. And so that's not what we want. We want to have our laser shining on the very front of that building the entire time, so that way when the bomb falls, it will fall in its kind of ballistic trajectory right onto the front of the building, right where we want it to hit. So that's kind of another use case. A kind of a third use case is if you have a target, say this T-72 is hiding within, you know, kind of a cave entrance in some mountains out here. And so in order to hit that target, we're going to need to have that laser shining right into the front of the cave entrance or the tunnel entrance, whichever case it may be. Because, well, once again, if we have this very first target here, he's self-lasing for his bombs. His lasers are going to come in from here, it's going to start coming in here, 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 and then finally he's just not going to be able to laze that bomb into the very front of our cave or our tunnel entrance to shack this T-72. So there's a couple different use cases as to why you would want to actually do this. So we'll go ahead kind of walk you guys through it through this sketch. So basically we're going to have our two airplanes here, and the way you're going to see us do it is we're going to in the demonstration here is we're going to be doing it as a pre-planned strike with not every aircraft in the flight capable of self-designation. So obviously our jets here are going to be flying this direction together. We're going to have a separation here of, we want to have a separation of roughly 3 to 5 nautical miles between our two jets. We like to go for about 375 knots when we're using trail formation buddy lasing on the Spuds Buds Discord server. And that allows us to have enough separation between the jets to allow for constant designation on the very front of our T-72 down here, as well as give us plenty of room and space to maneuver for evasive maneuvers of, for say, a SAM might be shot up at us, or an interceptor might come in and launch an air-to-air missile at us, and we don't have to worry about getting into an air-to-air collision with our wingmen that we are either lasing for or shooting for. So as our shooter is flying across the target and he starts designating his waypoint that's over the top of our T-72 right here, he's going to go ahead and let me know we're 30 seconds out, we're 20 seconds out, we're 10 seconds out, we're 5 seconds out. Okay, pave way. Bomb is away, and the bomb is obviously going to be following in that ballistic trajectory coming on down towards our tank down here. And as he calls pave way, we'll start sparkling and shining the laser onto our tank from our guy back here. And so it's also very cool, you can get some very cool footage this way because you'll be looking at the very front of your target when that bomb hits, and you won't be flying over the top of it, the camera won't have flipped, and you won't be flying away from that target when you see that shack and that nice explosion on the target. So it works very, very well, and this is a very easy means to buddy laze. With the, you always want to make sure you have the designation aircraft behind the shooting aircraft. Otherwise it just won't work. You run into issues with masking your pod if you get too far out in front of the shooting aircraft, things like that. It's just really not a good idea. So this, like I said, this is the second most difficult way to buddy laze. Alright, we'll go for 20,000 feet and 375 knots.
Roger.
Let you pull out in front of me, and I'll get behind you.
I am speeding up.
Copy. And watch out for the wake turbulence. There's that wake turbulence.
Alright, bombs are configured.
Roger, we're going to go for a laser code 1577. Once again, making sure we're coordinating the laser code.
Set. And I have dropped symbology. 41 miles to...
Roger, 41.7 miles for me. I'm going to drop back a little bit further.
Roger, coming back down to capture 375 and climbing to capture 20.
Just keeping that coordination between the two aircraft going. So all that she's doing in order to designate that waypoint is making sure that she has the correct waypoint inputted on the HSI and hitting waypoint designate just underneath the waypoint down increment button. And I am just inputting the laser code into my aircraft. I'll be using the new waypoint slave mode for the lightning capture pod in the Hornet in order to capture that target. and we'll be increasing our speed back up to catch up with Kortana a bit.
Release timer's ticking down.
Copy. So her release timer is now ticking down. So pretty soon here, we'll be lasing the target after she calls paveway.
One minute to drop.
Copy. Still got a good view of the target. I really like this method because it allows a nice separation between the two aircraft and allows for use in non-permissive airspace. So if you have a SAM shot up at you, there's plenty of room to break off and break away without having to worry about getting into a midair with your wingman who you're designating or shooting for.
30 seconds.
Acknowledged. Alright, so we're 30 seconds out, and we're just really waiting here for Kortana to drop her GBU 16, and then we'll just squeeze the trigger and start lasing the target. It's that simple. Like I said earlier, the biggest hindrance to people in buddy lasing in DCS is just messing up the laser code in some fashion.
5. Kortana, paveway.
Spud, laser shining. And there it goes. We are now designating the target, and her GBU 16 should be capturing the laser and flying on down there in its bang bang guidance to hit our target.
Bomb is on the correct target this time.
Shack. One Scud. And there we go. We got a good hit on that Scud
Sweet.
launcher down there. So we'll go ahead
Nice.
and switch it on over, and I will be the shooter for this method.
At your 5.
Eyes
And
on.
there she is.
Alright. Looking to capture 20,003.75.
Roger, I'm going to go ahead and stay slow while I get my targeting pod configured to create support.
Copy. We're looking for about 4 to 5 miles of separation.
Roger, can do.
Flying as the shooter in this tactic of trail formation buddy lasing is probably one of the easiest tasks you can do in any of these tactics. All you need to do is simply select the appropriate waypoint, if that waypoint is superimposed over the correct target, and simply hit waypoint designate and wait for the drop symbology to tell you to authorize the release of the bomb in a CCRP drop. It's very much that simple. The onus is really on the designating aircraft in this tactic. Now we'll go ahead and throw the
Alright,
autopilot
switching
on,
targets.
make our job a little bit easier.
76.
1576 for the code.
Kortana's looking for the target and just verifying our laser code that we're going to be working on.
Roger. Affirmative, I've got it.
Roger. Eyes on the Scud, and my bombs are ready to go.
Alright, she's got the target, my bombs are ready to go, and we're ready to continue on to the target.
Currently have 375 and 20,000
And we'll save a
captured.
little time and speed it on up.
Alright, counting down, passing through 15 nautical miles to target.
Roger, I am just passing through 60.
Alright, 60 seconds.
Always keeping our designator aircraft and our wingmen apprised of the situation. Making sure they know exactly what's going on to help them understand when they have to actually start designating the target and how long that might be.
"30 seconds.
Keep in mind here that if you're flying on a public server or in a scripted co-op mission, things may not be as sterile as what you're seeing here in this demonstration. Things will be a little bit more frantic because there'll probably be people shooting at you. Your RWR may be freaking out on you, and you may need to just turn that RWR volume all the way down and just get your job done before you get out of there.
5 seconds. Spud knocker, paveway.
And there goes the bomb.
Kortana Sparkle 1576.
1576, confirmed.
And we'll just go ahead and watch the bomb here because we just have the jet in autopilot. It's just a demonstration, so why not? We see that the bomb has captured,
is tracking,
and is tracking Cortana's laser, and is heading right on down to the second Scud launcher that is just to the left of the previous Scud launcher we hit. And shack. So we'll go ahead and move on to the close formation buddy lasing method.
Alrighty. Well,
Lasers
probably
off.
the most difficult one. So now we're going to go ahead and cover the third and final, as well as, in my opinion, the most difficult method of buddy lasing that we're going to cover in this video today. And so that is, of course, line abreast or close formation buddy lasing. Now, it is the most difficult method because it requires a lot of good formation flying skills, as well as a lot of coordination between the two crews of the two aircraft engaged in this method of buddy lasing. Now, some common use cases for this method of buddy lasing is, say you're flying an F-14 and one aircraft has a lantern pod, the other aircraft does not, and in the F-14 it's a little bit complicated and a little bit confusing to set up a CCRP drop onto a known waypoint or onto a known location. Or say you're flying any type of jet, an AV-8, an F-18, an F-16, an F-14, and only one jet in the flight has a targeting pod, and they find a target of opportunity that is not in a known location, and the other aircraft in the flight do not have a method of laser spot tracking, because they're not carrying their own targeting pods. So I guess the AV-8 wouldn't really apply for this example here. And so as a result, a close formation line abreast buddy lays is required. And so we're going to go ahead and go over the crew coordination between these, as well as how to kind of perform this before we jump into DCS and kind of demonstrate it. So basically we've got a shooter aircraft and we've got a designator aircraft. So I know that we're on a 2D screen here, but pretend that these guys are flying line abreast, and of course we've got our T-72 target down here again. And so basically our shooter aircraft is going to be engaging this target in the exact same way he would be if he was going to do a self-designation drop. And so he's going to use his cues from his targeting pod and his weapon system to tell the buddy here, the shooter, when exactly to drop. So as a result, it's very, very important to keep your wingman here, your shooter, apprised as to what the situation is. Okay, we're a minute out. Okay, now we're 30 seconds out. Okay, we're 20 seconds out. Oh, we're 5 seconds out. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1, paveway, and on the designating jet's paveway call, this guy's going to have to drop his bomb, and so therefore he's going to start lasing the target as the bomb is falling down to the target and get a shack that way. So basically on that paveway call, the shooter jet is going to be dropping his bomb, it's going to be falling down his ballistic arc, and of course our designating jet is going to be designating with his laser onto our T-72 down here. And you'll see how that occurs in our example here with two F-14 Tomcats in DCS world. In both instances where I'm the shooter as well as when I'm the designator, you'll hear that countdown, you'll hear that paveway call, and of course both jets are going to be acting simultaneously to drop the weapon as well as start shining the laser. And so we'll go ahead and hop into DCS and get it started.
Alright, everything's set. I'm going to go ahead and, I think I might go ahead and set up to drop both of the GB.
Roger. Currently at 15.1 and flying at 375 knots.
Roger. I am at 15.7 and 400.
So here I am back in the designator aircraft for this third tactic for buddy lasing. Now in this tactic, Kortana is going to snuggle up nice and close on my wing in a line-abreast formation, and we're actually going to use my drop symbology for her aircraft, and I'm going to tell her exactly when to drop her bomb, and then I'm going to laze it on down into the target area.
Laser code is 1577.
Once again, verifying and double checking the laser code because we don't want to have an errant bomb go off into a neighborhood and cause any kind of significant collateral damage because of our stupid mistake. Now keep in mind
23 miles to target.
that this method can be used between different types of aircraft. It does not have to be two F-14s. For our second demonstration, where I'm the shooter, Kortana is going to be in an FA-18. The only thing that matters here is the ballistic trajectory and the aerodynamics of the bomb itself. So drop parameters can be used and drop symbology can be used between two different types of aircraft, but using the same type of ordnance
Got eyes
for
on
the
you.
drop queue itself. So she's getting nice and close. And we'll just continue on.
Alright, target's going to be a patent tank just to the east of the runway.
On our flight into Greater Tomb Island.
Roger.
So I'm just working the pod here, making sure I get a good beat on the target. I'm going to go for that little target we can see just off to the right-hand side of the runway down there. And Kortana's nice and close in a line-abreast formation, meaning that my drop symbology is going to work just fine for her bomb.
1 degree left correction in 3, 2, 1. Coming left.
2.
Rolling out.
Because of this close formation, making sure that she knows exactly
45
what I'm going
seconds
to be
to target.
doing and how I'm going to be moving the aircraft
Roger.
to keep us aligned with the target for a good drop on the target.
.30 seconds.
In a moment here, you're going to see me actually calling out my drop cues to her so that she can drop her bomb right on cue as if her own aircraft was developing the drop symbology.
.10 seconds.
Here it comes, getting closer.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pave way.
And we can see
Kortana,
she's
payload
dropped.
times 2.
Spud is lasing.
Got the laser shining.
Coming right.
2.
Keeping that laser going.
And shack.
Nice. So let's go ahead and jump into the
Nice
shooter
job.
aircraft and fly the exact same demonstration.
Shooter settled.
So just like Kortana did in the first demonstration, I'm going to be flying nice and close to her, as close to a line-abreast formation as I possibly can.
$20 miles to target.
Copy.
Holding steady at 375.
Of course, the reason for this is we want her drop symbology developed from her FA-18's weapon systems to actually correlate to my aircraft so that we get as close of a emulation of a self-designating drop.
Release timer is ticking.
Copy.
So her release symbology is ticking down for a CCRP drop on the HUD of her FA-18. Because we both have GBU-12 selected in the weapon systems of our aircraft, the actual drop symbology will be correct, as GBU-12s drop exactly the same no matter what type of aircraft they come off of.
One minute to drop.
Roger. What are we targeting?
Let's see. Appears to be a 10.
Roger.
Might be some sort of APC.
Whatever it is, it's going to be dead.
Indeed. In 30 seconds.
Alright, 30 seconds to drop. I'm really concentrating on my formation and flying skills right here, really trying to make sure I'm as close to her while still being a safe distance as I possibly can.
Yeah, it looks like some flavor of BMP. Ten seconds.
Copy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drop.
Spuds paveway.
Right on time.
Kortana Sparkle. Coming left.
Coming left.
So she's now designating for my bomb as it's falling. And we're just coming off to the left of the target here. Bomb should be getting close. Any second now.
Shack.
Nice.
And we shacked the
Awesome.
target. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you learned something that will help you get deeper into and more enjoyment out of the DCS World multiplayer environment. Buddy lasing in multiplayer can be difficult and frustrating, but when it works, it feels incredibly rewarding. A huge thanks to Kortana for spending the time to help me out with getting the footage for this video, and this was definitely one of the more difficult videos to plan, film, and edit that I have ever tackled for this channel. I've been planning it for a long time now, and I am very happy to finally be able to bring it to you guys and help you guys out. If you enjoyed the video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon, and thanks a lot for watching, and of course, fly safe guys. I hope everyone's staying healthy, happy, entertained, and safe out there during this coronavirus crisis time.